What's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? Your dynamic duo, the Thriller and Madman, back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And what a great episode we got. Break up the Bruins, break up the dynasty. We're at 2 in a row. So much to unpack from UCLA's emphatic victory at East Lansing. And the world is our oyster at this point, Bruin fans, as the darling of college football over the course of the last 10 days. The show rolls on, the train rolls on for our beloved mighty Bruins. But before we get into it, my brother, Will the Thrill Decker, we had so much fun hanging out Friday night. How we doing, Thriller? How's the weekend? How's life?
Man, everything's just been going like gravy when it comes to UCLA football, man. Just another emphatic victory. And, it was so impressive how they did it. We'll dive into all the analytics, but I'll leave you with one stat to kind of start here. We go down 7-0, and I'll kind of shout out our guy Nick Coop, who works with Wayne Cook on the show. Since Michigan State took a 7-0 lead, UCLA went on a 38-0 run, outgained Michigan State 347 yards to 72. We had one takeaway. The secondary was looking sharp. The run game even better. I mean, my God, is this like a top 20? Or can we make the playoffs? Like, this is insane. I'm like all the way in. I've never seen a team do a 180 more than what we're seeing right now. And I mean, just all credit to the coaching staff, man. Am I insane? Like, do we have a chance to really go to a bowl game? Because we talked about Penn State. You didn't know if it was a one-hit wonder, pun intended, with Coach Skip and the note he left his players. But now that you kind of got a little bit of momentum with a second victory, there's a lot of optimism here. And I'm really, really excited to dive into all of that today.
No, Thriller, absolutely. So well said. Just what an incredible game. And I'll just pick up right where you left off. The game starts, UCLA goes 3 and out, and then Michigan State just sort of drives down the field at 7-0. And you couldn't help but think, okay, maybe, the Penn State game was a moment, and now things have maybe reset back to quote unquote normalcy, whatever normalcy was at the start of the season. UCLA, finds their way, gets a nice methodical drive going, kicks that field goal, makes it 7-3. And then, Thriller, it felt like the tsunami hit because Michigan State went on that 4th and 1 from their own side of the field, right around their 30-yard line. They do that toss. UCLA stuffs them. All they got to go is 34 yards for a touchdown. It's 10-7. And I think that really put Michigan State on their heels. And then they go 3 and out. And then how about for a second week in a row, Thriller, special teams coming up magically again, the fake punt with Cole Martin, that 20-yard run, and that makes it 17-7. Michigan State gets the ball back, and then Childs fumbles, off of the forced fumble from the pressure on the edge, and then UCLA gets another short field, 24-7, and it just felt like the game was completely over. Bagani actually missed a field goal at the end of the first half. Those were exactly 27-7. Michigan State tries to sort of move the ball early in the third, can't fail on another 4th down conversion. Bruins take it all the way back, and then yet another short field to make it 38-7. Thriller, what was so significant here was you had 6 scoring drives, you had 5 touchdown drives, but 3 of the 5 touchdown drives were less than 35 yards. I mean, the fact that UCLA, through great special teams play, through some opportunistic defense, and the ability to sort of stop Michigan State on 4th and short situations, created such short fields for themselves that it was just an avalanche. And you see the enthusiasm, you see the love that these guys are playing for each other, but there's also such an identity, Thriller. You alluded to the total yardage discrepancy. It ended up being 418 to 253 in UCLA's favor. But yet again, I think UCLA has found an identity: 24 throws to 43 rushes. And I think that has been so significant. Ball's getting out of Nico's hands very quickly. Vast majority of his throws are one-read throws, and they're really utilizing the zone read game in the running game, the stretch game in the running game, and getting the ball out quickly. There's such a clear identity here with this UCLA team, and I think we're so excited about what's to come. Your thoughts, Thriller?
Yeah, the run game is the biggest revelation to me because if you look at what they've done the last 2 weeks, we talked about in the pregame, like Michigan State coming into this game was a top 35 team in run defense. That was their strength. We ran it for 232 yards. So if you combine the 290 you ran against Penn State to the 232 that we had, Madman, we're averaging about 261 yards per game on the ground these last 2 weeks. That would be good enough for a top 7 team when it comes to the rushing output, week by week basis. So if we started doing what we're doing now, we'd be one of the top rushing offenses in the entire country, which is special. And we got to give a shout out. Jalen Berger, man, 3 touchdowns. I call him the Smash Burger. You need to get some NIL opportunities out.
Yes, sir.
Burger. Fat Sal's, can you create like a smash burger for the kid that we can get out going there? Maybe donate the proceeds to charity. But 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdown catches. We know how Nico loves to kind of utilize his running backs in the pass game. And just to do that against your former team, stuff didn't really go perfect at Michigan State, and he's able to kind of have that. What a special game for him and his family that have known he's gone through all those different obstacles when it came to Michigan State. So very, very impressed there, man. So the run offense, and Andy Kwan has got this offensive line playing at a completely different pace. It's just staggering to think about where we are 2 weeks after, a Northwestern loss, 0-4, no head coach, no defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. I've never seen anything like this in college football. This is not even a biased thing. I've never seen a turnaround happen so quickly. And Coach Skip, Jonathan Smith's off the table for you. Am I right in this after the beatdown that occurred? Because if it was a close game, maybe you could kind of talk yourself into it. But Jonathan Smith was outmanned, outclassed, out-hustled on that football team. The score honestly should have been a little bit worse if we're being honest with ourselves. You mentioned the Pagani missed field goal. There's a couple of opportunities where we didn't just kind of capitalize. So it was as bad as it got. Where would you rank your interest in Jonathan Smith after this ball game?
Well, lots to sort of unpack here. One is, I think you said it best. We've never seen anything like this. The fact that this is an 0-4 team and then to be 2-0 in the way that they have been, Will, you said it, 261 yards a game. It's 522 yards rushing over the last 2 games. That's 1,000 yards of rushing they've had in the last 2 games, running it at will. I think you and I both talked pregame. We thought this was going to be a game where the wheel route with the running backs was going to be kind of significant. I thought it would be more Woods on that wheel route, but Nico found Berger on the flat and did a phenomenal job. And Will, just to your earlier point about the emotions, UCLA sort of captured the imagination of even the national media. When you think about last night, the two marquee kind of college football shows, there's ESPN College Football Final, and then there's the Final Drive on the Big Ten Network. On College Football Final, Joey Galloway, in all this, he was being slightly facetious, but they were talking about the Indiana huge win over Oregon, and you and I were talking about this offline, and he said, look, Indiana doesn't have to play Ohio State, but Indiana has to play UCLA. He said that on the show. This is sort of where this has gone the last 2 weeks. And then you talk about the guys on the Final Drive in the Big Ten Network. They said, what's the one takeaway that you have of this week? Look, Indiana played Oregon. There was a Michigan USC game. There was an Ohio State Illinois game. You had all of these big games on the Big Ten. Both of those analysts emphatically said what UCLA is doing is absolutely significant. So UCLA has just captured the imagination of the college football world because this is just 2 such polarizingly different teams. And Will, it sort of comes back to what you were talking about with Tim Skipper. Look, we had said if he mows down Jonathan Smith, he mows down Jed Fish on the way to a potential bowl game. You have to start taking this more and more seriously. And Jonathan Smith got out-coached, outclassed, his team got out-physical.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing at home. Michigan State's 0-3.
Their homecoming game, man. Their homecoming
exactly.
game.
His homecoming game.
Yeah.
Michigan State's now 8-10 in Jonathan Smith's tenure. I don't think there's any doubt that Jonathan Smith now is sort of off to the side. And then, oh, by the way, Thriller, the other name that we've liked for a long time. Now, obviously, there's reactionary elements to this. Things change in a game or two. You have to sort of look at the law of averages. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at a larger sample size. But our good friend Tony White at Florida State, he's given up 108 points in the last 3 games. 108 points in the last 3 games. So you start seeing what Jonathan Smith's doing. You start seeing what Tony White's doing. And now Tim Skipper, here he comes, 2-1. We'll be getting into it all week. But you got a Maryland team that has just sort of collapsed 2 weeks in a row at home, blown big leads. They're young. They're going to have to travel cross country. That is a very winnable game. You could be sitting at 3-4 here in a week. Tim Skipper could be 3-1. And the conversation about whether this team has a chance at a bowl game starts getting more and more real. It is absolutely shocking what we are seeing here, Thriller. The culture is different. The energy is different. Guys are playing for one another. I mean, Cole Martin's reaction after, sort of that fake punt. You saw Flores kind of reaction after he made a big catch. You saw how these guys are celebrating one another after touchdowns and turnovers. This is a completely different. The camaraderie between Skipper and Jerry is palpable. The way they're always interacting. I mean, it is a beautiful thing to watch right now. And Bruin fans everywhere, all over the world, should be so proud of the resilience of this team to stay together and continue to win games. It's absolutely remarkable, Thriller. And you said it best. Berger, Anthony Jones, and Cole Martin, all 3 of them had experiences at Michigan State, didn't work out. And for all 3 of them to come back and play the way all 3 of them played, got to feel great for those 3 guys. Ultimate redemption there.
Huge. Anthony Jones had some great pressures of Childs earlier in the game. And, those practice reps, they add up. So he knew his game, coming out when he was rolling out, because he is, for all of his faults he had yesterday, he's still a very good dual threat quarterback, in my opinion. So I thought Jones played that very well. I thought Martin's fake punt, I mean, my God, is this coaching staff maybe the best I've ever seen when it comes to special teams and catching your opponents off guard. It's really insane the trick plays they're doing right now. And the guy that we've missed that we have to shout out to, Kevin Coyle, was really good on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we held Michigan State to 87 yards rushing yesterday at a 3.5 average. Like, that is really elite stuff. You probably remember one of the Michigan State, when they were driving, they were still somewhat in the game trying to generate momentum. They had 2 pass plays trying to go towards the end zone. Pleasant knocks one down, and then Andre James knocks down the other.
Yes. Really
just technically sound plays from the defensive back room. I don't know if they were capable of doing that in the first 4 weeks. I got to be honest with you. The level of coaching that is occurring now compared to where we started, it's like we're almost taking like steroids. Like, it's freaking unbelievable, like, what is happening with this team. And it's just been so much fun to watch, man. So I've got nothing but positive things to say. Everyone on that coaching staff deserves like a big raise after these last 2 weeks. And like you said, man, if he can actually beat Jed Fish here in a couple of weeks when we play Washington, this is going to be a very, very, very interesting conversation. And I mean, Skipper's been the man through 2 weeks. He's got a 100% approval rating. How do you mess with this guy right now?
No, how do you mess with this guy right now? Indeed, Thriller. And so much of what you said was so interesting because it showed what a difference the coaching situation made. And, you hate to say it, but it showed really how unprepared the previous coaching staff was. There's no other way to slice it. And this is the kind of version of the team when you and I in the preseason were saying this team's going to be 7-5. Maybe if the balls bounce their way, it could be even more than that.
Yeah.
Look, Thriller, I mean, you're sitting here 2 straight wins in the Big Ten. I don't care who you are. It's hard to win 2 consecutive conference games. So much conversation, right, Thriller, over the last 18 months about cross-country travel. UCLA has to go cross-country, 9 a.m. start, so they're completely sort of disoriented. Does not matter. They win by 25 in a game, to your point, could have been a whole lot worse. Coyle is absolutely masterful. Aiden Childs gets knocked out of the game because of great UCLA defense. He had sub-100 yards in that game before he gets knocked out of the game. So this was just a comprehensive victory through and through. And at the same time, you never actually felt that the offense was strained in any way. You had that one great deep ball that Nico just dropped it into Mikey Matthews for 37 yards down that right sideline. That was such a great ball.
What about that throw he made in the red zone to Titus, too?
And then the throw to Titus.
Oh, my God. this is the team we thought we were getting, guys.
Exactly.
Like, there's some very talented players on this team. And through 4 weeks, I totally admit a lot of people were like changing their expectations and, how much we thought of the players in that room.
Yeah.
But guys, look at what's happening when they get some level of substantial coaching in there. Like, this is a good team over the last 2 weeks. There's no disputing that. So it's really just exciting to see these guys reach their ceiling as kids and as a team. It's unbelievable for UCLA.
No question about it, Thriller. And, you sort of can't help but think, hey, what's next? And again, that's not what this particular episode is all about, but you got to believe this version of UCLA at home against Maryland, you got to love our chances in that game. And if you can get to 3-4, obviously, like we talked about, especially given what the buzzsaw of Indiana is, what they did up in Eugene on Saturday, going at Indiana, going at Ohio State, are just going to be 2 extremely difficult games. But the other games, home for Nebraska. Look, Nebraska beat that Maryland team, but Raiola had 3 interceptions again. It was just sort of a shaky up and down game. Home for Washington. Damon Williams was phenomenal. Thriller, you and I were watching that game against Rutgers, so that's going to be a challenge. But Washington's another young team, up and down. You got home for Washington, you got home for Nebraska, and then you got the SC game. I mean, are we sitting here, Thriller, potentially 5-6 going into the Victory Bell game? Can you imagine kind of the drama and the circumstance there that you're sitting at 5-6? You need a bowl game. You're potentially playing for Skipper's job at that point, against SC to try and get to a bowl game and make it a successful season. What a dramatic conclusion that could be to the regular season, totally climaxing this entire journey over the last 3 months. So much to sort of be excited about. Thriller, let me ask you this before we head out. Give me some unsung heroes from Saturday. Who did you kind of like that maybe was flying under the radar? We talked about the running game. Nico was phenomenal again. That's now 8 total touchdowns over 2 games. He's peppering it to his receivers. Who did you kind of see emerge, or someone that maybe enough folks aren't talking about that of what you really liked?
There's a few guys that stand out. We talked about Berger and his 3 touchdown performance. Javian Thomas had a great game too. I mean, he got his own touchdown as well. Definitely deserves mention there. I got to shout him out because we're down 7-0 at this point. We got to make a big play. Hudson Habermill, man, that 26-yard catch over the middle. We talked about in pregame. I'm like, let's get Hudson going. This guy's got talent. He's got upside. Made a big catch to kind of get the offense kind of rolling in rhythm there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's a few guys, man. I thought they played very good as a defensive unit. I thought Kiana was great. Devin Alpue had the sack fumble, the former Notre Dame transfer. That was probably the best individual play in game we've seen him have as a UCLA Bruin. And then just the secondary, man, Roderick Pleasant and Andre James, those knockdowns. The secondary has been such an issue for UCLA dating back to the early Chip years. Like, this is something that has just not been fixed. That was some of the best secondary play I've seen in well over a decade. So I got to shout out the entire secondary, Key Lawrence, these type of dudes. I mean, it's fascinating, man. I really think, like you said, that 5-6 mark, we got a real shot at that if we keep doing what we're doing. And why would you change anything? We're unbelievable these past 2 weeks in the run game, the defensive side of the ball, the pass game, and just from the head man, Tim Skipper. And his quotes in the press conference yesterday, I'm just trying to get better. We just want to be better every single day we can. And the little comments and just how positive and just how much he's injected life into this team and this fan base. I mean, I can't give a bigger tip of my cap to a guy than Tim Skipper and what he's doing, and the entire staff for what they're doing with Jerry and Coyle. So, brother, buckle your seatbelts. I think we're just getting started here, which is the most positive thing about everything going on right now.
Buckle your seatbelts, indeed. And Thriller, just completely agree with you. Apu had that sack, made a huge impact. Scooter Jackson, led the team in tackles yesterday, was absolutely fantastic. So really some guys stepping up in a very significant way that we didn't expect. And I think the emergence of Habermill is so big because his athleticism, Thriller, we still haven't quite seen this offense with Jerry that's so run heavy. You're using those wide receivers and those out routes, the short balls, getting the ball out of Nico's hands quickly. But wouldn't it be special if you add a wrinkle with that tight end? You got that athletic tight end. It could just make even more strain for the defense and open things up. So I have a feeling Jerry's going to get in his bag now even more so after what he saw he could do with Habermel. I would expect Habermel to build on this performance, Thriller, and I think have an even bigger game against Maryland and see how that would translate into the second half of the season. So, I mean, who would have thunk it, Thriller? We've been from the bottom of the bottom to the top of the top. You know, how could you have a season where you lose by 25 to New Mexico at home, that you're down 23-0 against UNLV, and then you come back, you shock the number 7 team in the country who's basically fallen apart at this point
wow,
after
that's
the
a separate
UCLA game.
conversation.
I mean, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
That's a whole week-long conversation. What's happened at Penn State over there? We essentially kind of ended James Franklin's job at Penn State with that performance last week. And then you go on the road to the guy that many of us, us included, thought was one of the really very top of the list in terms of candidates for the UCLA job long term.
Okay.
You go into his building on homecoming and beat him by 4 scores. I mean, so this is just remarkable where we are. Buckle up, fans. We're just getting started, feeling really good about what we're seeing from this team. Another winnable game next week with Maryland. And can we get this train rolling? Thriller and I are going to have all the coverage that you need over the course of the week. Enjoy your Sunday, folks. And before we go, we got to pay the bills around here. You see the Sleeper app below. Sign up to the #1 app, sports app today, and experience it for yourself. Use that promo code UCLA LAFB and get $100 off match bonus of your first $100 of betting. So you put in 100, you get 100 for free. You're going to be betting with 200 this year. Millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. You got your live stats, you got your news feed, and you get that real-time chat where you're engaging with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. Download the #1 sports app and experience it for yourself, and tell them the guys at LAFB sent you. Use that promo code UCLA LAFB.
By the way, the only fantasy app I use for both my fantasy football leagues.
And listen, if it's good enough for Thriller, it's good enough for everybody, okay? That's the connoisseur. So, Thriller, another great one in the books. Another victory for the Bruins. We're 2-0. We can take on the world right now, riding a high here, and hopefully the train continues against Maryland. We'll have a ton more coverage. Always so great to see you, my friend. And Bruins everywhere. Another great win. It's a great Sunday in Southern California. Bring out that UCLA gear. Bring out those flags for the cars. And make sure you get your tickets to go to the Rose Bowl on Saturday to support this team against Maryland. Be loud. Be proud. Be passionate, Bruins. And as always, 4's up forever.